Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, praise to be Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing and guidance, which allow us to gather here today in a good health and good condition. On behalf of the committee, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Ikmi Nur Oktaviani, SSMA, the head of Master's Program in English Language Education, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan. Our respected lecturers and faculty members, our honorable speaker, Mr. David Wijaya, PhD from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, teachers, educators, students, and committee, and all participants joining us this afternoon. Welcome to today's workshop entitled Teaching and Learning English Grammar Through Cognitive Linguistics. This workshop is organized by the Master Program in English Language Education, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, and my name is Mega Ayu Landari. I will be your moderator for today's session. And without further ado, let us begin our workshop by reciting Basmalah for today's session. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, everyone, our speaker today is Mr. David Wijaya, PhD, FKIP, currently a lecturer in the Indonesia program at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Mr. David earned his PhD in Applied Linguistics from the University of Queensland, Australia, from 2019 to 2023, and his Master of Education in TESOL from Boston University, USA. He has an extensive background in language education and has been teaching English for approximately 15 years, beginning his career as an English teacher at Sekolah Kristen Ketapang from 2006 to 2012. He then taught at Lembaga Bahasa Internasional Universitas Indonesia from 2013 to 2019, where he delivered courses in General English, Business English, Academic Writing, IELTS, TOEFL, and he also served as a lecturer at LIA, I see, Jakarta from 2013 to 2017, and at Universitas Katolik Atma Jaya from 2014 and 2019, teaching English grammar, second language acquisitions, language teaching methodology, and academic writing. Internationally, he has taught at the University of Sydney from 2020 to the present, and the University of Queensland in 2025, and currently at Nanyang Technological University since 2026. His research focuses on cognitive linguistics, embedded language pedagogy, learner corpus linguistics, second language acquisition, and the use of generative AI in language learning. His work has been published in leading international journals, including Computer-Assisted Language Learning and International Review of Applied Linguistics in Language Teaching. He is also frequent keynote and invited speaker at national and international conferences on language teaching and applied linguistics. Today, he will share his expertise in our workshop today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. David Wijaya, PhD and FKIP.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Mega sudah mengenalkan saya. Okay, here I am again, and I'm wearing two hats today. So the previous one I wore like a researcher hat, but now I am wearing a teacher hat. Okay, so maybe you can start the presentation. Yeah, teaching and learning English grammar through cognitive linguistics. What is cognitive linguistics? I'm not gonna talk much about that. I'm just gonna share what it is about, what are the principles, and how they are useful for language teaching. So yeah, we're still using the same platform, just to make sure that participants of this workshop participate and make this a bit more worky. Okay. So I think first of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank Ibu Dr. Ikmi, who has invited me to share this material with all of us. And then one thing that I've been telling people here, especially faculty staff from Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, is the spirit for learning, the enthusiasm, the passion for learning. And I used to teach Indonesian studies at the University of Sydney, and I used to, so I taught not just the language, but also the social, historical aspects of Indonesia. And I once delivered, one of my lectures was about Islamic movements in Indonesia, because Islam is obviously an integral part of the Indonesian society. And then I learned from preparing the materials, I learned that Muhammadiyah people are very keen in learning. And that's something that I am really amazed. Our spirit for learning, your spirit for learning, your passion for learning is really valuable, and I'm really amazed with that. So thank you for being here, and I hope that the materials that I will be presenting today will be very useful in your own English grammar learning and teaching. So let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so let's start with several statements here. Let's start with the importance of grammar. To what extent do you agree with the following statements? So let's move on. Next. Yeah. Teaching grammar is an essential part of effective language instruction. Do you strongly disagree? Disagree? Somewhat disagree? Somewhat agree? Agree or strongly agree? Gonna wait until at least 25. Yeah, next. Grammatical forms do not carry meanings or uses. I think we can expect a single answer here. Next. Grammatical forms do not fulfill communicative functions. Next. Grammar lessons help students improve their overall language proficiency. Until what? Next. I regularly include grammar instruction in my classroom teaching. If you are not teachers, if you are not teaching yet, do you think you will include grammar instruction in your teaching? 14.30. Okay, next. It is easy for me to teach grammar. Okay, next. I use a variety of activities and strategies to teach grammar. Okay, next. I enjoy teaching grammar. Okay, next. I'm familiar with the genre-based approach. Yeah, next. I'm familiar with task-based language teaching. Okay, so some okay, one. Okay, a few people are not familiar with task-based language teaching. So what is task-based language teaching? The name is quite straightforward. We teach language using tasks. But then, what is a task? What is a task? Okay, so if we ask students to fill in the gaps, is it a task? No, it's an exercise. Okay, so a task has a communicative function. So we need language to complete the task. For example, ordering food. So the goal is to get food to your table, right? And you need language to do that. But that kind of task may no longer be relevant now because everyone uses QR codes, right? You just use your mobile. So your thumb, not your tongue. You no longer use your tongue. You use your tongue only to eat. Use your thumb to order. Yeah. So the task must be should be meaningful as well, and can be used outside the classroom. Whereas language exercises like fill in the blank is only done in the classroom. Okay, next. Yeah. So my view of grammar teaching is as follows. Vocabulary and grammar are inseparable. For example, which one? Make homework or do homework? Do, okay? But in Indonesian? Buat, right? Yeah, buat PR, bikin PR. Not, bukan mengerjakan PR. But does it make sense to say mengerjakan PR? Yeah, but ribet, right? So, udah bikin PR belum? Gitu ya. But in English, you cannot say make homework for some reason. Grammatical forms carry meaning and grammatical patterns are meaningful. What does it mean? We'll see later. Grammar fulfills communicative functions. Consider the use of passive voice. So when you said, I made a mistake versus a mistake was made. What's the difference? If you say a mistake was made, yeah, but it's done in the past. Yeah, who did it was unknown, was hidden. Yeah, so if you made a mistake and if you want to acknowledge it, use the passive voice. Yeah, a mistake was made. A mistake occurred. Yeah, so it serves communicative function. And then grammar does not consist of rules, but it consists of meanings and use. So rules are basically a simplified version of meaning. But the problem with rules, they may not be applicable to other uses. We'll talk about that later. And then students, especially cognitively matured ones, want to learn about grammar. I'm sure you are all familiar with Stephen Krashen. And according to Stephen Krashen, there is no need to explicitly teach language, to teach grammar, because you will eventually acquire grammar if you read enough. If you read a lot, you will eventually acquire grammar. That view is basically has been challenged because it's simply not true. Teachers will never not have to teach grammar. So if we emphasize on communicative language teaching, task-based language teaching, developing students' communicative abilities, and of course students want to speak all the time, but they will need to be taught in some ways, in one way or another, and one of the ways is through at least corrective feedback, right? If they made an error or produce an ungrammatical form, then they actually want you to correct them, right? They want to know whether they did it right or not. So teachers will never not have to teach grammar. So Stephen Krashen's proposal that teachers should abandon teaching grammar is not popular. In reality, students want to learn grammar. Teachers need to teach grammar. And then, now this is also important. Not all grammatical forms need to be taught, because it's just too many, right? There are so many grammatical forms, and not all of them need to be taught. And not all can be taught. The one that I said earlier in my morning session, one form that cannot be entirely taught is English articles. However, many do need to be taught, can be taught, and need to be taught in a special way for several reasons. For example, the form has multiple uses, and the forms are not easily detected, and the forms are the meanings are abstract. The form and the meaning are complex, and the form or meaning or the concept does not exist in the learner's first language, like article. Definiteness is not it's not very strong in our first language, and it's not expressed in our language through articles. And this workshop therefore aims to introduce you to that special way, but please do note that there is no silver bullet in grammar teaching. Okay, so our teaching it's just unrealistic to expect that everything we teach students will be always effective. Okay, so and that's okay, because learning is incremental in nature. As long as we equip them with the tools that they can use outside the class, outside the lessons, to increase their knowledge, then I would say it's already more than enough. And cognitive linguistics provides such tools. Okay, next. Okay, the next is this. What makes second language acquisition differ from first language acquisition? Next. Oh, what's this? Did somebody hack my? Can you enter your answer? No. What can you? Okay, so no. Yeah. No. Please, that's a cheat sheet. I actually made it like a word cloud. Okay. All right. Could you give it your? Yeah. All right then. I may have press a wrong button. Never mind. I don't think this is kind of the question that I want to use. Can anyone just say something? What makes second language acquisition differ from first language acquisition? Anyone? Yes, go ahead. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, that's right. So with our first language, we use it like on a regular basis because we have other people who speak the same language. In second language, we need to find them, and they may not be easily found. And even if they are, like all of us here can speak English, we don't necessarily want to speak in English. Okay, another. That's a good answer. Another. No. No. Okay. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So that's correct. Limited amount of input and limited opportunities for language production. So in our first language, we hear the language all the time. And then we use it productively too, right? So the amount of input in the first language is infinitive. There's no limit. The same with opportunities for language production. But with first language, but with second language acquisition, the amount of input is very limited, and the opportunities for language production are even fewer. Okay, and the next one is first language is bottom up. What does it mean? When we first learn our mother tongue, we learn from very small units of language, even the smallest units of language. How to pronounce words or even syllables, and then words, and then phrases, and then sentences probably emerge when you were like 2 years old, right? 2 or 3 years old. So it's bottom up. Whereas second language learning, okay, so first of all, second language acquisition here, the term second language is a misnomer. Why? Because the field was born in a Western country where the majority of the people only speak English as their language. They do not speak other languages. So when they learn another language, they will say it is their second language. But in many other cultures, such as in Indonesia, Malaysia, or even Africa or other countries, but not Japan or Korea, because those countries are also monolingual. Other countries are multilingual. Like in Malaysia, you can speak 4 languages. You can produce one sentence with 4 languages. You can speak Mandarin, Malay, English, and then a Chinese dialect, or maybe a Tamil or whatever. So in many cultures, it's supposed to be another language, not a second language. But because the field was born in a monolingual country, it is named a second language. Second language. Yeah. Second language here. So I'm just I keep the word second language here because it's just the term accepted in the field. All right. So with regard to second language, it's top down. What does it mean, top down? When we learn another language, we start with learning So we learn how to greet people. We learn how to introduce ourselves. We learn how to make a request, right? So that's top down. Because bottom up is just not realistic. Where to start, right? And why do we need to start from the bottom? It probably has very little communicative value, right? When we learn another language, we want to be able to use it meaningfully. So we start from the top, which is learning the functions. Learning functions or pragmatic functions such as introducing yourself, greeting, and so on. And then when we learn another language, we already know a previously learned language. In this case, our first language. Probably, what's your first language? Javanese or Indonesian? Javanese, right? And now, is Indonesian your second language? But it is learned later, right? At school. Now, if you learn Indonesian later at school, it's your second language, but then this is different. The amount of input is quite the same as your